6 o'clock and we'll open the meeting. My name is Ally Evans and I'm the chair of the select board for anybody that doesn't know. And I was elected last year, and this is Katie Morrow, who is the assistant chair or vice chair. And you've been here for a couple of years now. And Nick Suarez is with us as a one-year select board member. And David Lebo, our moderator, and Connie Holt, our administrative assistant to the select board. And then we have a couple of other people in the audience who work for the town or work for like the library or something like that. So we'll get there as we go on. This meeting is for us, I look at it as a dress rehearsal so that I personally am ready for town meeting. And so that if you have a question, we can research the question before town meeting and be more prepared. So the way we look to run this meeting is to have you folks ask us questions, see if we have the answers adequately for your questions, and then to also have like the library and the delinquent tax collector here, the highway foreman, so that if we have questions that are specific to them, the town clerk's here, planning board, one member's here. So that's how we're thinking of running this meeting. Do you folks have anything to add to that? You know, we view ourselves as true public servants, and you're our boss. So go ahead and give us some questions.
So I'm gonna run through each of the articles, and then we can ask questions about those articles now. They'll answer the ones that they can. If they can't answer, the select board can't answer. And one of the other towns, the workers can't answer. We'll have it for you at town meeting. However, what I've seen in pre-town meetings in the past is the question is asked here, the answer is given here, and then the question is not asked during town meeting. And so this is not the forum. This is the forum to get some answers, but please also bring these questions up during town meeting, even though you may have heard the answer, because if you thought of the question, there are probably others that have as well. Okay, so we'll start off by Article 1, moderator. I'll be willing to serve as moderator if you want me to serve as moderator. However, I'm not married to the position. If somebody else wants to give it a whirl, go right ahead. I'm not going anywhere. So, okay, Article 2, to act upon the independent auditor's report. That is on page 4 is page 5 and 7 also from the auditor as well? Right, okay, so
those
that's
are
recommendations. Recommendations on deficiency. The schedule of deficiencies in internal control and other recommendations are on page 5 through 7. I think last year they did ask for the more complete auditor's report, so good job. And thank you, whoever put this book together. Who was that? What group was that?
Alenka, Helen, and Connie.
It's a
And
beautiful,
so there should be the auditor's report, there's more information as requested.
it's a great book this year, fabulous, great job.
Linda Sperry's cover.
Yes, very nice book.
The back cover was wonderful too.
Yeah.
Yes, that was Connie's picture.
After a select board meeting.
Okay, any questions about the auditor's report or tonight? No? Okay. That's Article 2. Article 3, shall the voters authorize the treasurer pursuant VS 32 VSA 4791 to collect current taxes and to add $1,500 to the treasurer's salary? That's Article 3. And then underneath it, it gives some informational purposes. Yes?
The $1,500 is in essence a raise to the treasurer, is that correct?
No, I think there was 5,000 allotted before.
Yes.
So it's
there was a
1,500.
separate line item, as Elena mentioned, the 5,000 for tax collecting. We were revisiting that this year because the division of labor wasn't very clear as to how much the treasurer is actually doing tax collection versus the assistant, finance office assistant, and how much of that labor is actually getting done that way.
And the
So-
treasurer is Elaine, correct?
The treasurer is allowed
So I pay my taxes to Anita.
to Anita, right?
She's the assistant.
Right. And so there was like a bigger division of labor towards the assistant than towards the treasurer on that, but that was all kind of falling under the treasurer's line item. So we were just splitting it up instead of having this one line item kind of ambiguously for tax collection, when the treasurer is the person that should be doing the tax collection. If they're authorized by the town, then the treasurer can divide labor as they need, and then Anita can just, from her line item as the treasurer assistant. So it's a little bit clearer that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it says the chair $1,500,
Oh, right.
then it says members $4,800.
Yes.
The 4 members.
Divided.
There were 4 members,
Yeah.
not 5.
There's 5 total with 1 chair. So,
Okay, so,
yeah, including the chair, right?
so the chair must be getting more than $1,500.
It's not.
No,
No.
the others are each getting 12 and the chair is getting 15.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was $4,800 each.
No.
No,
No,
okay.
no, this is an explanation. We're not,
Thank you for the raise.
right. That
My
we're,
pleasure. Anyone else?
we're not voting on this, that piece.
Right.
Right,
We
okay.
put that in a box because we wanted to be where it always was
Right.
for people to understand, but we didn't want to look like we were raising it here and raising it as a
Right, so we
a
won't be
line
voting on
item
that.
in the budget.
Right, so that's there, and then when you go to the general fund and we vote on the general fund, if you want to amend those numbers, you can do that during the talk about the general fund. I'm just pointing that out,
Right.
okay?
And then casual labor, that's, right, 2.5% increase.
Yes, sir. Okay, that was a very good question about, do you have more? About,
Well, the casual labor line, yes.
yes, go ahead.
Is that the person that cleans town hall? Is that Katie doing grant work? What is that? That's Katie.
That is everybody except for Connie. Connie had a separate arrangement with the select board when she came in to do the administrative assistant work, but everybody else that gets paid a wage is that wage. And we got the increase from Social Security. You know, we took the Social Security cost of living raise and applied that to all of the wages.
I see.
Unless they have a salary, like the town clerk has a
Right.
salary, the treasurer has a salary that we all vote on, but otherwise, I believe the listers make the casual labor rate. That's how that
And we
works.
gave the 2.5% to the elected officials as well, but not an hourly wage.
Can I just say also that it wasn't just Connie specifically, but it was a select board assistant, so.
Right, it was a person
separate before her.
Before
as well.
her, yes. Okay,
No? Okay, and everybody understands that box in that general fund, right, that we're voting for that there. Okay. I assume that question is gonna be brought up at town meeting anyway, but please, that's an important question to brought up. Okay? Okay, are we good with Article 3? Moving on to elections? Okay, anybody have anything to add to the election box? No? These will all be elected from the floor. Please find people to run so we don't get bogged down. If somebody doesn't run, I believe the select board.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What's WRMUED?
the school,
Yeah, that's the school district, and it's Joe Winrick is the,
Okay, so it's a school board representative.
yes, yes, sir.
West River.
Yeah, don't ask me.
something. Unified Education District, yeah.
Yeah, like,
It just gets longer and longer with more letters every time. Okay, any other questions about the elections?
this is,
Nope. Okay. Next would be Article 5, to see if the town will authorize to set the tax rate sufficient to cover all monies raised. Any questions about that? The dates are correct, July 1st to June 30th. Yes.
Is this where to ask the question about the overbilling of $10,000 regarding taxes?
I don't know.
What was the question again, please?
The $10,000 that taxpayers were overbilled, which is on page 5, I believe?
In the town report?
Yeah. Not by auditors. 7 perhaps.
Well, that's on the auditor's report.
Overbilling of property taxes on 7. Town overbilled its property taxes by setting the tax rate higher than was approved at town meeting. The incorrect tax rate was caused by including a failed article amendment for $10,000 while calculating the rate. So my question is that should I be asking about that now since we're talking about setting a tax rate?
But we are not setting a tax rate, we're talking about it. So what you're doing now is telling me Ally gets some firm information on that.
Yes, please.
Okay. And it's on page 5.
7.
7?
I don't know where to bring that up. Which article? I don't think this would be the article to bring that up.
Maybe the auditor's
Obviously, it
report.
must be brought up, huh?
The auditor's report article, since it's found there, or?
Auditor's report, but you're just really voting that up or down. General fund talk. I would bring that up in Article 7. To see if the town will vote to appropriate to pay for the running expenses and liability of the town. Because that's really, you're asking for you're asking what are you gonna do with $10,000? That's where you would adjust any $10,000, right? If there was,
It's either gotta be a rebate or an adjustment on the current year's taxes.
And it could have already happened and I might not know where to find it, so that's why I'm gonna find that information for you.
Okay.
All right, so 10,000 from page 7, auditor recommendations. Because when I went through some of these, it was like, oh, check, she'd already done it. You know, we set up a bag inventory for the trash bags and things like that. Fraud policy and things like that, but I didn't get that from her, so I will.
yeah, I would bring that up under Article 7. Yes, what?
At
Yes,
some point,
yes.
somebody's going to say, it might be me, all these things that the auditor suggested, how far along are we with that?
That's a fair question when we talk about the town report. Yeah, when we talk about the town report, when we act upon the independent auditor's report, you can ask that question. How far along?
Report.
Yeah,
Okay.
the auditor's report. This is the town report, right?
Right.
The auditor's report is, it was a couple pages, right, right. And so we're acting upon the auditor's report on Article 2. That would be a good question. Where are we?
So if you
Yes.
act on the auditor's report, you
Yes.
have to do it in toto? You can't say, I don't think this is worth the time and money to implement? You either act on it or don't act on it? Is that
We're just talking about the report, on what they reported.
right?
And it's kind of a boilerplate thing that we always get bogged down in.
Okay.
The town can not agree with the auditor, not accept the auditor's report.
Okay,
Doesn't mean anything.
all right.
But I think that
We can't change the
the
order.
article is asking us to accept the auditor's
Right,
report.
generally
And I
it is
think what
accepted.
you're saying is if we agree that something should be changed and we realize it hasn't been changed, how do we deal with that?
No, actually what I'm saying is, the article says to act upon the auditor's report.
Yes.
And what I'm
Report.
saying is, can you look at the auditor's report and say, well, this particular thing doesn't make any sense for this town? Or if you vote to act on it, are you voting to act on it in toto? So if the vote is to act on the report, we have to implement all the recommendations. Or can you strike some?
No, the auditor's report is the auditor's report.
Right.
No, I'm not saying, I
Right, right,
understand the
no, it's the whole
report is
thing,
the
you can't
report.
pick it apart during this article.
Right, okay,
I
so,
think what she's asking is do we, by accepting it, commit ourselves to
No.
act on
No.
the recommendations?
Okay.
And
No,
the
No,
answer
we're just-
there is no.
right.
We're still
the
gonna,
town, right,
presumably gonna accept the report,
right,
Right,
we
but
accept the
the
report,
article-
but that doesn't commit us to acting on it.
but
right.
it does say in the article
We've
to
been
act.
through this round and round and round.
Okay.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, and you, here we go again, and that's okay. We must educate. This is the usual verbiage, and I tried to get it changed, and this is the usual verbiage, and all the town is doing is accepting the report or not accepting the report. We're not actually deciding on or instructing the select board to do anything. It's just the town saying we agree with the auditor's report that the town is deficient or not deficient. That's it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sort of, except the way it's phrased doesn't.
Well, I think the
I-
phraseology is from 100 years
Yes,
ago.
we've been around and around. Yes, this is a common. I personally don't like this at all because people get confused between the town report and the auditor's report. We're not accepting the town report. That is
The town report's up for debate.
so yes.
I think also that members of the public that familiarize themselves with the auditor's report are always welcome to come to any of our warned meetings and say, hey, have you acted upon this from the auditor's report? If so, what have you done? What haven't you done? And why? And I think that it's always an ongoing discussion throughout the year of the different things that we're trying to act upon within our timeframes and our, 2 meetings a month and things like that. So it doesn't end there with town meeting. It's an ongoing
I
discussion.
mean, I have back my notes back 17 years of doing this, and one of the first ones, Alice Gauch was playing the piano back in the day, right? And it says right here, to approve, not act on the auditor's report. And to this day, it's not changed. It's the same way. So I understand your confusion, but
It doesn't really mean a whole lot.
it doesn't.
Well,
But
isn't it
it's
simply a
always there.
statement of fact, a supplying of
That
information?
we've paid these people $20,000 to come and audit our books and we're accepting what they told us. It doesn't mean that we totally agreed. It doesn't mean that we haven't already fixed some of these things since June when we got the report. It's just we're accepting their report. We're going on the record that we've received it and we've shared it with you. And there we are.
Yes.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Say, just for the sake of argument, that the people in the town decide that these auditors have no idea what they're talking about. And what we want to say is, all right, you contracted with them, pay them for this year, but next year, get a different auditor company.
Well, but that's when
We discussed that here, but.
when the budget is up for discussion, that's when you dispute the total to run the municipal government, because that's part of the municipal government. And you put a microscope onto that section, that line item, and say, here's $20,000, $19,000, whatever it is, that we dispute and we want a discussion with. And you don't pass the entire general fund to run the municipality until you come to a decision with that. So, that's how I would think it, wouldn't you, David?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I never know when he's laughing, what he's laughing.
No, I'm laughing because it says in 2012, Change Act on Auditor's Report to approve it. 2016, Change Act on Auditor's to approve. So, your confusion is understood because
And you're not alone.
You're not alone.
there's definitely a lot of it going around.
And there's actually, if I could look it up, there's actually, maybe I should be prepared. The state has made statements on this as well. On what this means and why we do it. Okay, so I'll look into that a little bit. Okay. So that was Article 5, to see if we can borrow money. Then to see the dates. I looked at all the dates, none of them are on a Saturday, so that was good. Any problems with Article 6? dates of tax collection. Okay, seeing no, go ahead.
Yeah, here's my mouth.
Yeah, no, it's okay, go ahead.
Every time the taxes are due, I say, why aren't we doing it on the fourth Friday of the month? Why does it happen? Like when Thanksgiving rolls around, it gets paid extra early, but normally it's the third Friday of the month. Is there a specific reason?
I don't know, Anita and Elaine confer and pick the dates, but I never asked what was the reason.
Yeah.
We did point out that one was very close to Thanksgiving, and
Yeah, it's usually like
they said they knew
22nd.
that, but I never know why they chose, I don't know why they chose those days.
Is there a way to propose that they in the future consider choosing the fourth Friday of those months when we pay taxes? I'm sure there's a few people that are crossing their fingers that things don't pass in the night or one gets paid before the other or one gets conveniently delayed, so on.
And this would be a time to bring that up at town meeting.
Yeah,
Could that be changed by an amendment?
I would think so,
I would
right?
think so.
Somebody propose an amendment that it be changed to the fourth Friday?
I would believe so. We can ask the League of Cities and Towns that question, but I don't see why, if we can
What?
change. You
Change
mean-
the dates,
Yeah, to
as long as they're not
well, if it's the fourth,
way out of whack.
if it's
I
the
can do it.
fourth Thursday, then it's not a Saturday.
Right, well, yeah, no, as long as they're not that far, I mean, because the people are assuming if you're 3 weeks off, I don't think that's acceptable.
No.
But a couple
and
days
the only
wouldn't
thing,
really matter.
yeah, the only thing I'm thinking is, a lot of banks pay the mortgage, the taxes. So I don't know how far in advance they'd have to know, but this is only going into effect in July, so.
Well, yeah, and this, I mean, what the banks would get would be the result of the vote.
Yep.
They wouldn't get the
Right,
warning per se.
Right.
so,
And the tax bill.
Yeah, well, and when they're due, when they print them up, but that would go by whatever
Right.
they decide, whatever they decide.
so yes, I think you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you could amend that. Okay,
Elijah, do you
Okay.
want us to ask them for they may have a very good reason why they.
well, ask
Should
first.
Should I ask?
Yeah, well, ask first, have a discussion, and then make an amendment if you want. That's what town meeting's all about. Okay, anything else on Article 6? Article 7, that's the general fund, page 10 through 16, yes. Hand up.
It says appropriate for running and expenses and liabilities, that means liability insurance. Does it include that?
Insurance is included in the general.
It is included in the general fund, it's always been worded that way, so.
Okay. So then my next question is, since there's liability insurance already, why are certain people who ask for use of town areas when they are a town resident told they have to also have their own liability insurance?
Because that's what our insurance has told us.
So
That-
that first birthday party for the little girl, they had liability insurance to have their party here? And then you have a
Oftentimes, it's not buying a liability policy, it's calling your insurance company and asking for like a rider for your homeowners that covers the party. It's just, this is your money too, you know, we're just very careful with,
that's why I'm curious about if we're already paying our taxes and it's paying for liability, how come I have to cough up more money to pay for liability insurance?
because we're not
when I
paying
wanna run a function
liability
that
for
would benefit
inviting
the town?
people in for parties, and that's why you're helping to cover that.
Okay.
Did you want to say anything else with that, folks?
I think that covered it.
Okay.
I just was wondering, this liabilities just refers to, it's a general term of whatever may come, right? It's not necessarily referring to insurance. Man, I'm looking in the dictionary, but I think it's maybe the word is, it's a sort of semantic thing, possibly.
Mainly want to know, did it include liability insurance on the building and on the common or other places?
It does on the main use of it, but it doesn't cover, because I've actually looked into if we could have liability insurance to cover such things that don't cover alcohol, you know, like alcohol or something, and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns wouldn't even give me a number to cover it. So it covers kind of what we have the general stuff, and anything in addition.
So it covers us all sitting here, someone who
Yeah.
stood up, tripped, or broke their leg
Yeah,
because the town is hosting this event?
yeah, or if people come into our offices.
Yes.
Well, I think the liability is a debt or financial obligation that a person or company owes to another party. Liabilities can include loans, accounts payable, taxes, and wages. So
So everything
it's a
we are.
large, it's a big umbrella term, is what I'm saying.
And we've spent several meetings talking about our policy of use of town hall and the common. And a couple different people have taken it on as an action item. And a lot of times what we end up doing is waiving the fee for nonprofits or town residents or things like that. Usually, like if somebody's gonna make money off of an event, we impose the fee, but if you live here, we often don't. So you might have to pay $30. I think one time someone wanted to have a birthday party for their kid and they had to pay $50 extra to their own homeowners policy to expand it for a month or something that allowed them to hold the event. So you might pay it on that end, but we are pretty understanding when people come to us and fill out our form.
No, I've asked several times and I've been denied every time, even though I am a nonprofit and I am a town resident, and the functions I wanted to try to put together, any, like a craft show, all the money that people would pay would be given back to the town. I wanna do it because I wanna have more community events for the community.
Okay.
It doesn't benefit anyone but the community, but I've been told no every single time.
Well, may I interject? We are, after town meeting, we're starting to relook at the policy, the town and common rental policy. And we're looking at it from twofold. How can we get our beautiful buildings to be used and our common to be used, but also how we can support them and how we can support local people. So if you want to give Connie your contact information before you leave, we will invite you to those meetings.
I plan on running for the select board.
Okay, I don't know what your name is.
Shiloh Tedrow.
Okay.
Most people know me as the serendipitous shepherdess.
And to be clear, just we don't waive the insurance obligation currently. We just sometimes waive the use fee, not the insurance obligation of the person using it. That's what I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
Fabulous that you're running for the select board. Fabulous discussion on use of the buildings. Please bring that up again during town meeting, because I believe that is a discussion that other people might want to have. Okay. Okay. Any other discussion about the general fund? Right, that's what we're
I
talking
have
about.
the $10,000 question.
The $10,000 question.
Yep, that I'm gonna get answered by
Yes,
town
right.
meeting.
Oh, right, yes, that's the question for this, at this point. Right,
Yeah.
$10,000 that the auditors found because of a failed article that was included, amendment. Okay. Okay. Anything else on Article 7, general fund? No? No discussion? Okay. The biggest ones always go the quickest. Never makes any sense. You know, we'll argue about a little $500. Okay, next one is the town roads.
We missed
No, did we miss? What did I miss?
77,850 by taxation for running expenses and liabilities of the library.
No, there's one right above that.
Isn't that what we just?
No,
We did general
we just did the general fund.
We did for the town. Now we're gonna talk about, yep, the next one is the town roads. Any questions about what's seen in the town report? That's pages 17 through 20.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In Article 8,
Article 8, yes.
are the town roads,
Yes.
and then in Article 11, there's highway equipment,
Yeah.
and then in Article 12, there's highway reserve fund. So my question is, and then in 13, there's moving money into the highway reserve fund. So these are all articles that deal with the highway department. I would like an explanation about what all these different articles are about.
I can talk about
Okay.
that. if you
Well,
want.
wait. So we're thinking about town meeting here. Now, you're asking questions about Articles 11, 12, and 13.
But the only articles that regard the highway fund, the highway department.
Okay.
Why are
I
there?
understand, I don't wanna get bogged down in 11, 12, and 13 during 8. Right, so I understand your question. So is there a simple explanation why this is cut out, or? Yes.
Yes, I consulted the VLCT about writing articles for the highway, particularly. And what they said was you can either combine everything that you want to accomplish in one article, or you can break it out into several articles. And I thought, and I brought it back to the board, that breaking it out in several articles would make it so that we could have these discussions that people want to have and that we want to have with the town in separate articles, so that nothing gets missed or pushed away or gone over by something that may cause more discussion than anything else.
And
I did it that way on purpose.
if I can interject, if we pass Article 8, we're agreeing to the normal expenses for running the town. These are over and above, and they could have been included as line items in the 200 fund, but we felt it was more transparent to do it this way so that you folks would know that we're trying to create capital expense funds and things like that to build up our fleet so that we're not constantly having knee-jerk reactions to broken equipment that has gotten.
Which reminds me, last year we talked about leasing equipment.
And we did.
Yeah.
So that you've done that, so you're now starting to lease equipment rather than purchase it.
Well, we're doing both.
Okay.
So we'll get there as we get along, but I think I concur with you, David, that if we discuss 8 now, put that behind us, then we'll discuss the other ones when we get there. And yes, are they part of highway? Yes. Are they all gonna be voted on the way we wrote them? Probably not, but at least we're telling the people what we think is needed.
Okay.
Okay?
And that's a good brief explanation to get us past
8,
8
right.
and realize that 11, 12, and 13, or whatever they are,
Yep.
are above and beyond and separate.
And
that's why I
highlighted
went that
for
way.
you to see,
Right.
instead of just in the
Okay.
total. Connie,
We have a question from
Yeah.
one of the
Yes.
people online. So
who is it?
Jay Ward is asking a question that says Article 8, where does the other 180,000 come from? I think he's talking about the revenue that brings the, to be raised in taxes below.
The $180,000.
Yeah, from
It's
the
the
834 to the 1 million.
Difference here, it's the revenue.
Right, so where is the extra?
Well, these are net figures. What you do is you take off your, you can see it in the report.
Right.
But you get what you need to run the town, say it's $10, and then you go to your money in and you go, okay, I got $1 from this person, $1 from this person, so let's take $3 off the $10. And that's how you get so we brought in $180,000 in revenue from the state, from FEMA.
Anticipated grants
And-
that we've been awarded.
And grants that we got. So, Connie and Jeremy and Katie have been working double time getting grants and things like that to help offset the highway taxes. So
Right.
that's the $180,000, and it's reflected in the town report.
Page 17 is the revenue, the highway brings in revenue.
Mhm.
And page 18, 19 are the expense, and 20 are the expenses. Subtract one from the other, and that's how you get where you're going.
Yeah. And that.
Yes.
The word maintaining in Article 8, does that specifically mean paving the roads?
It could be anything, I would assume, maintain them, from paving to grading to filling a pothole to.
It doesn't
Right,
include
it
any
doesn't
line
matter.
item.
I think it was Basin did the paving this year, if I'm not mistaken, and they paved in front of my property.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, it's only like a mile stretch. It was not a very long stretch. And I don't know what other paving was done in town, but I was out there talking to the guys regularly about the work they were doing, because the windows in my house were rattling, because they had new equipment, which was heavy duty, super duper, and everything was vibrating. But anyhow, He was talking to me about the state being on the paving end, that the state needs to give the towns more money. He said, because many towns have 15 miles of paved road, they only get funding to do 1 mile of road. And so I'm wondering, you know, and I don't know, Jeremy's probably gonna speak to this at some point tonight or maybe at town meeting, is what have we got in the offing that needs doing, and where's that money coming from? Or how do you all petition the state for more money? Because we can only squeeze so much out for taxes, and then there's still jobs need doing.
Okay, so Jeremy, you wanna take it or do you want me to talk about it?
Sure, I mean, we do have a $50,000 grant that we've already been approved for upcoming paving this year. We have a section of Route 35, which is roughly 2,700 feet or so. We have been contacted from the state that we are eligible to receive another $150,000 in grant money. We put in the budget this year for $150,000 to pave that section. So if the way we can work it out, we may end up recouping that $150,000 through the grant, so it won't cost the town virtually anything to pave that section of road.
Which section is that, Jeremy, just for?
Basically from East Hill to Deer Valley Road, the really rough section on 35. So it used to be, you know, they used to budget for $100,000 to pave every year, which got to about a mile 10 years ago. Now it's half a mile if you're lucky, depending on if you have the mill, it's even more. So I mean, like Katie said, we're constantly applying for grants and trying to do what we can, but the money, you know, everybody's broke. So,
Yeah, you're right.
so I mean, we're doing what we can. Fortunately, after this section of paving on Route 35, most of 35, Grafton Road, Windmill Hill, in pretty good shape for a couple of years. And there'll just be some small side roads coming up. So.
Thank you.
What we're also finding by being one of the, I don't want to say few towns, but not all towns aggressively go after these V-Trans grants, and a lot of them don't at all. Maybe they don't have the staffing or whatever to do it. And what we're finding is they have kind of a list of different towns and what you could get if you went after them, and they go down this list, and then if you applied and a lot of other people didn't, they come back to you. And that's why we ended up, instead of just getting 50, getting this 150,000. Because a lot of towns aren't taking advantage of these programs, and we are. So it's really paying off for us in that way.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the price to pave has become obscenely high.
Yes.
You know, so. Are we up to number 9, sir?
I don't know, are we done with number 8? Any other discussion about the highway fund? No? Raising the 800,000? No? Okay. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise $77,850 on the library. Page 23. Any discussion on that one? That will be brought up again during town meeting?
Does that amount include the librarian's salary?
Yes. Thank you
If
for
you
that.
wanna describe what you see here, I can try to describe it.
Embarrassed to say that I left my town report on the kitchen table.
What, describe what?
I'm happy
That not everything comes out of the town budget, the bottom
Do it
piece.
during town meeting.
Okay,
I mean, yes, that's important, but if not
he's
here.
suggesting you do it during town meeting.
I mean, you can do it here if you want, but I want it done also at town meeting. I mean, it's
What
okay.
do you think? Would you like me to do it now too? I mean, I'm happy to, or?
I don't care, it's up to you. I'm not saying no,
Yes.
I'm just saying, if anybody here wants it, that's fine.
It's in that box.
Yeah.
But it wasn't asked for and then brought us up, it's fine.
Good, I just need to know what page it is.
20, what did I say?
23.
23.
Does anyone want to look at another town
And
report?
basically, do you want me to describe the way you described it to me, Marilyn?
Well, if you thought it was semi-clear, that would be great.
Yeah, the library operations totals.
Wait,
and
what
the-
were you saying, Mary? Wait 1 second, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that it's a little unclear to
folks, but, so the town pays for library salaries, building maintenance, that sort of thing. And then books and other programs and other things are provided by money that we raise through fundraising letters, bequests, other donations. So that's why there's, like, the library trustee budget on the bottom half is from money that we have collect or have raised, and then from 2/3 up is things that the town pays for.
And the 10,000 and change and the 67,000 and change equal the 77,000. Are you
Yes.
following me? So that's the 77,000 is raised by the town, where the library trustees are kicking in the 27,000. And it's a whole 104,000 to run the library. And yes, the salary is in there. I was confused.
That answer any questions?
Looking at it kind of.
Okay,
Barely.
okay, just be prepared for town meeting, right? Okay. Okay, we're good with the library? We're good with the library? Okay, next is the old cemetery fund, that's on page 24. Any questions, Charlie? Charlie?
He's not here.
Charlie doesn't believe
said
in
that he'll-
pre-town meeting.
And let me pick on him then.
That we can take the questions and you can answer them at town meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or
That's
people
fine.
can call them.
And I mean, basically, they ask for $2,100 every single year, and then they augment it with their perpetual care and other monies they take in, and it's not book kept until the actuals. So,
Right. It's like the usual stuff, they have some CDs and stuff that they get a little bit of money from. Okay, that's the cemetery fund, page 24, then we're gonna see if so here's the 11, 12, and 13. Okay, these are broken out, I guess, highway fund requests to see if we can establish these highway reserve funds. So Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to establish the highway reserve fund to be used for highway infrastructure projects and purchase current and future leasing and repair of highway equipment in accordance with statute. Any questions about 11?
I can talk about it a little if anybody
Please.
wants me to. Okay, so last year, our Article 13 was to raise $200,000 by taxation to be held in a reserve account for the purchase of new highway department equipment. So that we had meant to establish a highway reserve, but that didn't actually establish a highway reserve. So I've been working with the VLCT on the language here on how to actually establish that reserve. It put money aside, but only for 1 year. It did not put that money aside in perpetuity, right? So this year we decided I would go back to the VLCT and I will talk to them about how you actually establish that reserve so that we may use and build upon that reserve. So that's what this article is specifically doing, is in one single article establishing that reserve.
and there's no
And,
dollar amount, no
There's
number,
no dollar amount
just-
on it because the VLCT again had this set, they said you can either put that language of establishing and funding all in one article, or you can break it out, and we chose to break it out because we thought that was the best way to do it, the most transparent way to do it, and also the best way to have that bigger conversation that we were expecting to have. So that's why this seems redundant from last year, but it's not, it's actually establishing that reserve
with the proper language.
with the proper language. And then going forward, if the town passes this, going forward, the article you might see next year or the year after would simply to be funding that reserve that we've already established.
Being that you and Jeremy were just speaking about all the grants that the town got regarding paving. And now you're clarifying that this would be something that's done each year. That we're not gonna get a break from funding it, even if we're fortunate enough to get grants?
No, so you don't have to fund it every year if you don't want to.
You don't have to fund it
This
ever.
simply establishes it. And then in a separate article, next year, the town could choose to put an article in front of town to say we want to fund it with this much money. gets voted up or down. The town could choose next year, we don't need to do that, and we don't do it. But no matter what, that reserve will sit there with hopefully some money in it in perpetuity, and the town can spend it and build upon it in that way. So it does not lock us into funding it with a certain amount every single year.
So what you're telling us is that if you get grant money next year, you may not ask us to put any money in the reserve.
I have no idea about.
No, but if they get grant money, they might not put a line item for paving if we're getting a grant for it. It all depends. Let's go on to 12 and 13
Can I
because.
clarify the grants, please?
Yes.
Grants are a reimbursement, regardless of whether we have the grants or not. We still need to pay for the actual product, and then we then we send all that info to the state, and then we get our money. So regardless of whether we have $200,000 grant, we still have to fund that somehow, some way, before we can get our money from the state. So just for clarity there.
And this is very separate from the grants. This is establishing this highway reserve that the town can choose to fund with certain amounts of money to put aside for equipment and infrastructure, things like that. Like we have some bridges and things like that you'll see in the later articles.
So I guess, on page 21, there's all our CDs and reserve funds. If you think about it, every year we put money into the fire truck pumper reserve fund for our pumper. Now, I've seen years that's been voted down, and nothing goes into that reserve fund that year.
$10,000?
What, for the reserve for the pumper?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I think years ago it was 10,000.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, are we putting money in fast enough to keep up with the increasing price?
Whoa, wait, what were we talking about here? Hang on. I just brought up the fire pumper.
I don't expect an answer to that question.
Oh, okay.
And
I just brought that up as an example. So all we're doing in Article 8 is 9, 11. Article 11.
8, 9,
Sorry.
11,
Yeah, I
right.
hate Roman numerals. Article 11 is setting up a fund like that fire pumper that we can fund or not fund. That's all 8 does. It does nothing with monies. There's no monies involved in number 11. Okay?
Can I ask
Yes.
without expecting an answer right now, but I believe the town used to do that. Used to have a highway reserve, and I think a lot of towns also have that, whether you put money in or not, but it's so that when it's a fan, it's not all on the people like that. I don't think it's an uncommon thing at all to have.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and we see it in different areas of the budget. Like I think we saw that with gravel crushing. It didn't have anything in it since 2019 for whatever reason, but it was there. So we see that in a lot of different ways as we go through the budget during budget season.
The other thing to remember, Jean, is like when you hear something at town meeting, it might get, it might not pass the article, so you won't see it in the bank account, so to speak, because it wasn't raised. So that's the hard part of, we propose articles, but not all of them pass. So.
Yes.
It may be that Article 11 is more philosophy than finance. We've had residents who are philosophically opposed to reserve funds. And by breaking it out, we can have the philosophical discussion and then up or down, and then we can go on to the finance. And it makes for a more organized discussion because math and philosophy, you can't talk about them at the same time, you get confused.
Yeah, and number 11 is simply a box, a legal box to hold whatever you raise for the highway in. And to keep it separate and not commingle it with the operating expenses. So, shall we go on to 12?
Watch. This will be the one discussed more than the money.
Probably.
Okay, yeah, so number 12 is actually funding this highway reserve fund with $200,000 for highway infrastructure and $300,000 for leases and purchasing. Discussion on number 12. See?
The
More
leases,
discussion?
the
More
leases
discussion
are
on it.
here if we wanna discuss
Which?
them.
Oh.
On page 21 at the bottom.
Page 21 are the leases?
Want to do the 200,000 first? Okay. So Jeremy and I could both talk about this, but so the $200,000 for infrastructure. Do you want to talk about that,
Sure.
Jeremy, and what we're gonna be
Currently,
doing with it?
we have a bridge on West Hill Road that needs a new deck. It's been in the works to be replaced, I don't know, since I started in 2018. At one point, it was supposed to happen, and then I think COVID hit, and that kind of got kicked to the curb. At that point, in the early 2020s, it was $230,000 or $40,000 to replace the deck. The estimate I just got last summer was upwards of $400,000. We do have a $200,000 grant coming for that bridge. But again, we also need to pay for it before it happens. So we will not see that $200,000 until work is complete and paid for. And then there's also another bridge on West Hill that was heavily damaged in July of 2023. Was that the last flood we had? That needs to be upsized and replaced because of the way it's positioned in the brook. Not to mention countless other box culverts and big culverts that are, the reality of it is the infrastructure in this town is really old and things are starting to rot. Like steel culverts have no bottoms in them, and there's a lot of culverts that need to be upsized to handle some of these super rain events and stuff like that. So we're just trying to establish an account to help fund that in the future. And we will continue to go after as many grants as we can to help ease the pain, but again, you still have to pay for all that before you get that money back, so.
If I could go back to the fire, the highway department, $500,000 that you want to fund, does that mean that that money has to be raised by taxation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, every article that you pay is over and above the school,
Okay, but it's not coming from somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, no, this is, right, so you already voted on the highway budget,
and you,
right? And so this is above and beyond that needs to be raised by taxes.
Yeah, well, people are gonna ask.
Yeah. And I just, oh yes,
Okay. So
Shiloh.
if we raise the $200,000 and this work gets done, and then you get the grant money that pays you back, what happens to the money then? Does the town get it back? Does it get put in an account for future use? You've just been refunded the $2,000 that people paid for. What now?
Connie has an answer for that.
The cost will be $400,000. The reason why we are proposing 200 is the work does not have to be completed till the end of 2026. So we have 2 years. We've been awarded the $200,000 grant. We have 2 years to complete the work. So this year we will put a special article in for 200,000, and then next year another 200,000. When we receive,
It comes in as revenue.
it goes to that line item. So it comes in as basically a reimbursement for money spent.
But it's
So
on
that's
the
similar to
revenue
FEMA,
page.
right? Because we do the work, we pay the money comes in, but it goes to that line item. I mean, it goes into a general highway fund, but it is record kept as a expense for that bridge.
Yeah. Right there.
Okay.
Now, the only, I have just a question. So you just created this highway fund, and now you've segregated money within the highway fund. So you've already created files within this one highway fund. Okay.
I think we also knew it was a large number and we wanted to explain the allocation
Right,
of those
I
funds.
understand, but most of the time, the old pumper doesn't go towards this or that.
Yeah.
It just goes in the old pumper fund.
We need to
This
make sure we
you're
have that 200.
raising money and you really are dividing it into specific boxes. That's all. That's little more unusual.
Well, you as a taxpayer can ask that question at town.
Yeah, okay, no, just.
So there's a separate GL account for this.
For the reserve.
Yeah.
And that was something that, I don't remember if it was if it was VLCT, but we were advised that we could create small individual reserves that are specific to equipment and specific to infrastructure. We could just have an umbrella reserve that we could kind of file away and just keep track of how things are spent. And so we went with just a single reserve for the highway department that would cover infrastructure projects and equipment. And then we could kind of keep that record here, splitting it out as we've done.
We also extensively looked at how other towns do it. We were looking at other town reports and other ways that they do that
We
within
met with people, yeah.
their highway department, and we saw other towns allocating and how that transparency worked for their towns and their discussions, and we thought that would help us.
Never reinvented it. Yes.
So I've just got a question. So how is it decided which, when expenses come in for the highway, which would be drawn out of the general highway budget and which would be paid for under the infrastructure and the reserve? How do you decide what money is paid out of the reserve?
Connie?
I think it's similar to how we handle FEMA, which is we keep invoices. The grant requires its own administrative record keeping. And so we keep those invoices and labor costs and materials all within one. And Elaine knows it. We are in contact with the treasurer. And my understanding is that generally when invoices come in, she discusses it with Jeremy and we put them where they need to be. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you determine, so is it only the paving grants or the other kind of grants? Are those the only expenses that are gonna go through the reserve fund?
Well, there will be no paving expenses going forward.
Okay, so, but I mean, how do you decide which expenses or which projects? Which projects, right?
We'll have to earmark it.
But how's that decision made? I mean, if we have 200,000, for emergency expenses, right? That's basically what the 200 is for, so.
The 200 is for a particular bridge that needs to be repaired by the end of 2026.
Oh, so this is a specific project, not just in general. Okay.
And that's why we separated it instead of making it 500, so it would be more transparent and more pinpointed.
Right,
It's 200,000 for infrastructure, which,
But that
could
is
be culvert
for,
replacement,
This is.
to bank erosion problems, stream
okay, and none of those expenses would ever come out of the general highway expenses.
Yeah, but it's not revenue when it's.
No, because usually you set, something you will pay for.
And it will also
You
go
know,
out.
get a big box culvert.
But it will also be,
Put it in.
but it will be marked
This is what
towards.
reserve
Towards the-
funds.
yeah.
So use that.
But it is.
So wait, too many discussions going on, moderator.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I guess what the question is basically is, what is coming out of the general fund?
Or the general.
The highway
The
fund.
highway fund, that's what I mean, I'm sorry, right. The highway fund versus this money. What defines, when do you reach into this?
When it
Highway
concerns
fund.
bridge, what's the bridge number?
43.
When it concerns bridge 43, it comes out of the infrastructure.
Right, that's the two, okay, or current leases, do you have line items for leases and stuff in the highway fund?
We currently have 2 leases.
We have
Okay.
2 leases and they are on page.
Okay, no, so I'm just, I think that's what the questions is.
Right.
Is if you have line items in the highway fund for leases, and now we're raising $300,000 for this new highway reserve fund for leases, when do you reach into the highway fund, reserve fund, versus the highway general fund? The highway, you know, understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
tell you how I see it.
Yeah, okay, that's the question.
I see it that the box that we've created has the $200,000 in it. When Jeremy says we have to pay for this, we can take that out. When the money comes back from the state, then we book it as a revenue, like on page 17 where it says FEMA 72921 flood reimbursement. and it comes in as a plus to us in the town, a revenue to offset the expense. And that's how I see it. We take it out of the box, we pay it, and then we reimburse it as a revenue.
In this particular case, if I'm understanding right, this 200,000 is specifically for the bridge.
Right.
But in the future, we wouldn't know
For
what may
which
come
bridge?
up.
Right.
But it's bridges.
Bridges, any major highway project, basically.
Unplanned
On,
or.
yes.
No, well, this
In
is.
future projects.
Anticipated.
Well, no, we are anticipating this one though.
Right,
Well,
but
yeah, it
the
just
article will be there continually,
Yeah,
so like we know, we have the one bridge, and then there's another one up there that needs to be done, so we'll continue to start raising money for that one under this article.
Well, you have to rewrite the article every year,
Yeah.
correct?
If you
Yeah.
need to do something.
You
for
have the
Bridge
box
Week,
still
then it's
there.
gonna come out of the general fund that you just voted on.
This one's already spent, pretty much, right?
Well, yeah.
But it doesn't really detail what.
Well, my understanding is if we don't raise the money, we lose the grant. It's, we don't have the grant, we've been awarded the grant, we don't have the funds until we do the project, and we can't do the project unless we have the money. So, we hope that all things pass so that we can repair that bridge.
Yes.
I applaud the fact that you're doing this. And I assume that all of this is actually on paper someplace and it's not just in somebody's head. I have experiences in the past where this head and this head had very different ideas and nobody knew where the money was. So I applaud the fact that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. That's nice to hear, Christine, thank you.
Is it generally true of these grants that they are promises to pay in the future after you've done work?
Correct.
Nobody gives you the money up front.
No, these are reimbursements.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just,
And what we're finding by using our own labor a lot of the time without outsourcing it is that we already pay 40 hours a week to our guys, right? So we don't have to add that expense to it. So oftentimes when there's a match or something like that,
We can capture a little bit.
we
of
can
the money.
capture a little bit more of the money because we're using our own labor and our own equipment to do these things. So that works out in our favor as well. I can talk about the second part with the $300,000. We decided, so the equipment went down after last year's town meeting. So there was not a way to have this larger discussion. And then through, I think I counted somewhere between 9 and 12 warned meetings, some of those special meetings, most of those normal warned select board meetings, we came to this decision where we decided to rent at least 2 pieces of equipment, a backhoe and a grader. The backhoe had been a discussion of having to be replaced since the previous November of 2023. It needed more than $44,000 of work, which was more than 30% of a purchase price of a new piece of equipment. And everybody had told us that we needed to, everybody that we had consulted had told us that we should make that move. So anyway, it became time that was one of the conversations that we needed to have. And then in the meantime, the grader went down and we spent all of these meetings deciding what we wanted to do. It came to, the board had decided finally to lease. And the way that you lease these large pieces of equipment is you make one yearly payment. There's no down payment. There is some interest involved, but you make one yearly payment for 5 years. And both of those leases started on September 24th of 2024. And that's the date that I believe that payment was made for each of those.
just really quickly, at the end of the lease, we keep the equipment, so it's a lease to own.
Or you can turn it back around and lease a new piece of equipment if you want.
you can keep it without an additional payment.
Correct.
Yep.
I think it's $1.
$1 we can purchase.
Yep.
Well, but the point here, so your lease payments total the cost of the equipment.
Correct.
Yes.
A little bit more with interest.
Are you planning to do that with other equipment as it needs to be
It's under
replaced?
discussion.
Well, so the reason that we set this article up this way so that we can have that larger discussion with the town, basically, we felt like, and some members of the public felt like they didn't have that conversation with us of whether purchase or lease. We looked into purchasing with a municipal loan, but we were not able to purchase both pieces of equipment that way, because it just doesn't, the municipal loan didn't allow you to do
No
two
down payment.
together, and the down payment was sizable. Actually, with the down payment plus the yearly payment of that, it put us over the $200,000 that we had gotten at town meeting last year for this purpose. So we decided that we would do this leasing because we were renting equipment in the meantime. And every time you're renting, you know, you get to the end of the year and you've rented for the whole year, and it's either the equivalent or a little bit more of that lease payment, that 1 year lease payment, but you have nothing to show for it, right? Because you just rented and you got to give the equipment back, or you got to keep renting. At the end of 5 years, you don't own it, right? So we were looking at, well, the equipment went down in April. We have all the way until town meeting next March to get to, and then even if a decision is made in March, you don't get that funding until July when the fiscal year starts. So that's about, 15 months or so of, or 14 months of like renting equipment or coming up, you can't really borrow from other towns. Sometimes somebody can cover you, you outsource a lot of the work. It didn't make sense to us. So we went with the leasing, and then we kept this. So we did not put those two lease payments. One is $90,000
It's
a
on
year.
page 21.
Okay, and
It's right here if you want that.
yeah, one of them is $91,037, and for the greater, and the other lease is $32,464. Those are once a year we pay those two sums, right?
For the next 4 years.
For 4 years from September. And so we kept that out of the budget, the highway budget, so that the town could discuss it at town meeting. So basically we benefited from leasing the equipment and having the equipment, but we are able to now discuss it with the town and say, hey, this is how much it cost. If you'll fund this reserve fund so that we can pay these two leases, then maybe next year you'll let us put it into the budget and continue with the leases. But we wanted the town to have a say
We
and
wanted to
have,
highlight it.
we wanted to highlight that was what we had done in the meantime since the equipment went down after town meeting, give the town a chance to discuss it. The beauty of these leases is that you can, at the end of your year, you can give them the piece of equipment back. I mean, you don't have equipment after that, but there's no penalty for that.
Right, if the town chooses not to appropriate that money.
So
Yeah.
what is the useful life of a piece of equipment like this after 5 years? Is it still useful? You say we own it after 5 years.
Yeah.
Is it still worth owning?
Oh, absolutely, but the problem with the newer equipment today is there's so much electronics in them that you have to, the maintenance end of it.
Yeah, well, the point is after 5 years, we do have a piece of equipment.
Correct, yes, you have
It's
the
not-
option to
It's
own.
not junky after 5
No, no,
years.
no.
Oh, no.
You
So-
can even
That
trade it
kind.
in. You can even trade it in.
Yeah, I mean, the option is either
Remember the one that had the
release
the
another
trailer
trade
on
piece
it at the
and you get the trade-in value still. It's typically, basically your machine at the end of the 5 years.
Well, and
Or you can
Right
keep
here.
it for another 5 years, then
28.
trade it in.
Well, that's gonna depend on what maintenance it ends up needing.
Right.
Like,
Right, but like I said, there's so much electronics in a lot of this new stuff that,
it might or might not be worth it to keep it or.
right, unless we had a full-time mechanic on staff that knew all this stuff and had all the.
And Jean, on page 28, you'll see a depreciation type schedule that we're developing. The age of the equipment, how long we expect it to last, and its replacement cost.
Yeah, okay.
So that kind of answers your question.
And something else that we've been encountering, and I think this is true for a lot of municipalities, especially post-COVID, and it is a result of COVID, is one thing is that the equipment takes forever to come in. So we were very lucky that these pieces of equipment were available in the time frame that we needed them. The other thing is that the cost of the equipment has gone up astronomically, even in the past 2 or 3 years. What we were looking at, a couple years ago for a piece of equipment we might have wanted to buy in a couple years is now the price is so high. So we felt also locking into this price over the next 5 years gets us what we need at the price that we know it's not gonna skyrocket on us when, if we had made a different plan. And it kept us locked in for that because the prices just keep going up and up and up. The parts are harder to get for the older stuff. They take forever. How long have they had truck 3?
Took from September to just last week
Yeah.
to get parts for it.
Yeah, and then we've gotten like numbers on if we needed this truck or that truck. If we ordered it today, you wouldn't get it for 2
Yeah.
years. It's a lot of that going on. So we really wanted to make sure that we were getting the best price and getting that piece of equipment when we needed it.
So the estimated replacement costs, when you go in to buy this in fiscal year 2032, are you sure that's gonna be the price? No, I'm joking.
That's not.
In 2032, it'll be double.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other discussion on Article 12? You want to discuss Article 13 as well? To move the highway surplus fund, $75,000 into this new fund?
Okay, so when we did that $200,000 last year, while, as I discussed before, that we didn't actually establish the reserve, but we did have this $200,000 set aside. Out of that $200,000, we spent the money on those 2 leases, which left us somewhere around $75,000 in those funds that was allocated for highway equipment last year, right? So the nature of a reserve fund is to build on it. You don't always want to drain it, right? You want to build upon it year after year. So we're hoping that this $75,000, if it's still left from that $200,000 from last year, we didn't have that in a reserve fund because we didn't actually establish a reserve fund last year. So we're hoping to take those funds, that $75,000 left from equipment, and put it into that newly established reserve.
And that's if there's $75,000 left because it's commingled with the
Right.
regular monies for the 200 fund.
Right. So that money, I believe this is not an article that asks the town for $75,000. This is an article that says if there's $75,000 left from that equipment money from last year, let us roll it into the newly established reserve fund.
So that means that there will be no verbiage for the surplus. That doesn't exist, right? Because you don't have a surplus line and a highway reserve fund line, right?
We entered this year with a deficit in the highway department, so there is no surplus.
Okay, that doesn't exist.
All right, I'm confused. Does the up to $75,000 exist somewhere and it does belong to the highway department, or you just told
So-
us we entered?
We entered
Deficit.
fiscal year 25, right, this budget is fiscal year 26, but we entered fiscal year 25 with about a 79 and change, $80,000 deficit. And we hope with money coming in, we are going to be getting some FEMA money still, that we can end with really managed spending and plan making in the highway department. We hope to cover the deficit and hopefully have some of that 75 currently. But we get our taxes quarterly, and we have yet to get the FEMA. FEMA has decided to go to 90% reimbursement, so we're gonna be getting an additional 15% of our FEMA money, so, which works out to be about $46,000. And then we're getting some highway, federal highway funds that we had not yet gotten, about $83,000 for Wyndham Hill Road. So we hope that funds will be there to cover the deficit and some of that 75,000. But it's a big challenge, it's a big challenge.
I'm confused about the article then, to see if the town will vote to move highway surplus funds up to 75,000 into the highway reserve fund.
If
But
they're there.
it may not even exist.
That's correct.
If we had properly established a reserve fund last year for the highway, then that money would just be sitting in there, right?
Right.
And it would have been $200,000 sitting in a reserve fund. We would have
Minus page
minus those
41.
leases, and it would still be sitting there. And since that didn't happen properly last year, that money is sort of floating a little bit, and we're hoping to move it into the reserve fund if it still exists.
And I think to answer-
What would happen to the money?
if
Well, there
the
is, there currently is not necessarily any money.
And-
We're
and
hoping that
it's
there
just-
will be
It's
at
just
the
saying
end.
that, well, the word surplus is the important
Yes.
word in that article. If there's a
I think the
surplus,
75,000 is the important.
I don't know who you are, what is
I'm
your?
sorry, I'm Trina Nealand, and I'm a resident of Townshend. born and
Okay,
raised in
I just didn't
Dummerston.
recognize you, so I was wondering who you were. So,
She's a mountain dweller.
I think part of the difficulty is we come to town meeting in March and our fiscal year doesn't end until June 30th. And there is some, not guesswork, we're just not sure when grant money is gonna come in. So if it comes in ahead of the fiscal year and it does cover that deficit, and then we do end up having the surplus, we still need to be able to act on it. Because if we don't have this article, then if we do have the surplus, it just rolls back to the general fund and we can't do anything with it. And we can't put it into reserve. So this is essentially a preparation because we know that we're expecting some money to come in from grant sources. And we know that we had some of that left over from the reserve that wasn't actually established as a reserve last year. We want to be prepared so that if the grant money comes in before the end of the fiscal year and we don't have a whole bunch of other emergencies that eat up the rest of the 70,000 between now and June 30th, then we'll be able to act on it come July 1st.
But if this wasn't in this fund, wouldn't it have gone into the general fund and we wouldn't be in a deficit?
you're saying it would go into the 200 fund, the
Like,
highway
didn't
fund?
you say we're in like a $70-something deficit for the general fund, for the highway department?
Right, if it had gone into a reserve fund, it gets separated out from the operating
But then we
fund.
wouldn't have had a deficit.
No, we still would have had a deficit
Um,
entering 2025.
But if there is a deficit, we don't have the grant money that comes in time to offset it, then that's what would happen, right?
Right.
We wouldn't have a surplus to roll over because it would be applied to the deficit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Any
Okay.
further discussion?
We okay with Article 8, not 13? 13.
13.
13.
13.
13. And discussion about 13. Okay. Here's your fire truck capital fund, $20,000 to be raised for the future pumper. Any yes?
Big question.
Yeah.
Where is that $500,000 ARPA money that was set aside for the new pumper that we were then gonna add
Been applied.
another $250,000 to when the pumper only needs $60,000 worth of repairs? Where's the ARPA money?
The ARPA money, I believe, has gone towards the cost of a new fire engine.
You have to. Good question.
The question is, where did the ARPA money go? And there were some dollar amounts with it that I don't quite remember.
Yeah, it
Excuse
wasn't
me.
any $500,000, I don't know where that number came from. There was roughly a little over $300,000 of ARPA money that went towards the new truck. The taxpayers have been told for 25 years or more that I can remember that $10,000 a year is not enough to pay for the new truck. Our engine one, or your engine one, is a year 2000, so it's 25 years old. That truck was $200,000. So if you put $10,000 away every year for 20 years, you have $200,000 plus any interest that you might have had. The new fire engine to fit in that station is like $700,000.
Is it gonna fit in that station?
There's a clause. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't get accepted.
Now, is this the low rider?
This- There's no, I won't say there's no such thing as a low rider. No, it's gonna be the same height off the ground as any of the rest are. Matter of fact, it could be, the lowest 2 points on any vehicle are gonna be the rear differential.
You chuckled when I said it, but this is what we talk about at the planning commission regularly. Where'd the ARPA money go? Why didn't the pumper get fixed? And the fact that we've been charged with coming up, well, this is by a member of the select board who is not in attendance tonight. You get the $1 million to rehab town hall. So the pumper and the ARPA money and the repairing the pumper as opposed to buying a new fire engine is always in the front of my mind. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, I'm not sure how to weed that out.
Yeah, you're.
Well, I just been
You
told
got
it's
too
not
much in
500.
that sentence or
Yeah,
something.
there was
I'm
an
not
awful lot
understanding.
there. On page 21, from the reserve, we have the ARPA funds of 186,823 and change as of the end of 23, and then 0 as of the end of 24, and that went to the down payment on the fire truck.
ARPA money did, yes.
Yes, and that's what depleted that, and we've all known that, and it's right there for us.
Some more questions?
Yeah, I think I should ask you. So the clause about if the truck doesn't fit, then you can reject it, but then where does that leave the town having a fire truck? I mean, is the fire truck that you've got that needs repair, is it still functional? If you reject this new fire truck because it won't fit and it goes back, does the town have a fire truck anymore?
Yes.
Well, I still have the old one, right?
But I mean, I know it needs like, what, $60,000 of repairs, so I don't know what the correct numbers are, because I have heard so many different ones, but I heard it needed repair. Is it in working order? I mean,
There's one that we have now, the oldest truck in the fleet, it's an 86, I believe. That one, when we got the estimate to repair the pump, it was like $40,000, over $40,000. And with the age of it, it was decided that was not a good expense of money. So we have two others. Knowing by doing the pump test every year, or every other year, you can start to see when you're about ready to have an issue. So then the truck in Dummerston came up for sale that they were getting rid of because they were getting a new truck. That one had been parked in our station when they were here covering, so we knew it would fit. So the town picked that up, I think, for $10,000, a little less than $10,000 as an insurance policy, knowing that our engine too was gonna go out at some point, it's just a matter of time. So we have the old one, okay, it failed its pump test, we can't use it at like any fire scenes, we use it for motor vehicle accidents and trucking water. That's what we use that truck for.
okay, but there is a second one.
Yes.
Still there, okay.
Yes. But the new one, the engineers have been over it and over and over it, and yes, but that's the safeguard to the town of Townsend is that if it doesn't fit, then we're gonna reject it.
Right, yeah.
And that obviously is gonna force them to make sure that it fits before they bring it here.
All right, thank you.
If it don't fit, shove it.
Well, I mean, there's things that they will do. I mean, the last one, 25 years ago, they had to chop the stack off and put smaller tires on it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you work with.
Yankee ingenuity. It works. Yeah.
That's $6 million in building a firehouse if you want. I mean, you know.
Yeah, can you imagine, remember the price of the firehouse when we were talking about that then? Everything keeps going up, up, up.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other discussion about the future fire truck capital fund? In actuality, I look back, we didn't even fund that last year.
That's right, that was taken out. That decision was made.
Yeah, I'm just pointing it out.
By the select board to take that out because of the other monies that have been put towards the new truck.
Right, so we didn't, okay. Okay, any other talk about the fire pumper truck fund? Hearing nothing. Town vote $10,000 for the fire pond maintenance. Yes,
I got a question. Where is the fire pond?
it's around Pekin Mountain Road.
There are
Bottom of
several.
Pekin Mountain Road.
There are
There's
several
way more
fire
than one.
ponds.
Oh.
There are
sure.
several.
All right, because I see the fire engines pull into the town barn and fill up with water out of the Mill Brook. So why do we need a fire pond? Is it just because we need more than one location?
Yeah. I think so.
Well, if your house is on fire, you're happy to have Millbrook, but somebody that's not near Millbrook
I was gonna say.
wants something.
Yeah, I don't know how better to explain that, but, yeah, the further you gotta go for water, the further your house is gonna burn into the ground, should you be that unfortunate.
Yeah, I've been there, done
From
that.
experience, yeah.
So there, no, seriously, my house burned to the ground 30 years ago with me in it. So the fire pond, when you all get a general alarm, you're filling up the pumper on the way to the fire? The truck is filled?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There's
So-
3,200 plus gallons of water sitting in that station right now, which keeps your house insurance, your fire portion of your house insurance down.
And so I'm missing the point here. Why do we
Might need
need
more water.
multiple?
If they need a refill, because the water they have isn't enough, they need a refill, having more that are closer to get to water, rather than having to drive all
All the way back to the mill pond?
So if we
Okay.
had to go out, like, where do you live?
Across the street.
From the town
Across the
barn.
street?
Across the street from the town road.
Oh, across the, so if we had to go all the way to Gerda's Way for water because your house was on fire, how quick do you think we'd put it out?
Are we having some kind of contest here?
No, you're asking why we would
Nice
need so
response.
many, why we would need so many ponds. I'm trying to explain to you that you need multiple sources of water all over the town.
Well, other towns have fire
protect it.
hydrants, and we
Yeah,
don't
we
have
have-
fire hydrants.
I get
These
that, yeah.
are replacing fire hydrants. Like up in Townshend Acres, we gave our pond over for a fire pond because otherwise people in Townshend Acres, if they ran out of water, even though they had a lot of water, on a snowy night and then they had to get down and back up, that house would be gone.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
familiar with the concept. I mean, I lived in Athens for 18 years and the only thing I know is they went to Leland Pond and filled up. I don't know if there was countless ponds all
Well,
over
there
Athens.
probably was, I'll bet you.
So that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, especially with brooks, because brooks are very temperamental. They freeze over in the winter and they go dry in the summer. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine is kind of a secondary sort of question. So I understand, you know, the need for ponds. It says something about toward a future fire pond. Are we talking about
A new fire pond.
but is this like a pond that's already there? We're just asking, we're buying it, or are we going to be digging a
We
pond?
don't buy fire ponds.
No, so the way that works, okay, there was money in the fire pond reserve account. What that was for, is for maintenance. I can't remember how many years ago, but we just had the fire pond that everybody knows on Pekin Mountain Road across from Grace Cottage. That had to be completely dredged and dug out after, I think it was after the flood. So there was money there. And then what happens is we apply for grants if we go to put in a dry hydrant, if somebody has a pond. A lot of times it's a homeowner that's putting in a pond. So we apply for grants, the state reimburses, it's like 75%. So, but once again, as Jeremy said, you have to have the money to pay for the job up front to get the reimbursed, but somehow that account keeps coming up empty.
Well, my question isn't so much the money as if you have to dig a new pond, before that can happen, is there any sort of like environmental, survey done to see what the impact of that is gonna be?
Yes, that is all on the homeowner. I mean, the engineer that works for the state comes in and engineers the hydrant portion. And he'll work with whoever's doing the dirt work, but.
Right, so
no,
like you
we
mean
don't
like
get
the
any-
town making their own, if it was the town paying to have their own fire pond dug, that environmental thing would still happen? Like that?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Jeremy can't get near a stream without it.
Okay, yeah, that's-
Seeing natural resources.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it right. Okay.
No, there's a lot of, we've had several where we had to reroute the hydrant or give it up because of the environmental impact.
Okay,
That's
all right, thank you.
That's what, the engineers take care of that.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions about the fire ponds? Seeing none, social services, page 26 and 27. Any questions on social services?
I'd just like to bring, it was brought to our attention that Vermont, New Hampshire Hospice does not no longer, hasn't served Townsend for a number of years. So that should not be on They shouldn't have requested it for the last few
Who's
years.
who's on the screening committee? Right, okay, that's, okay, be prepared to answer questions on that one.
Well, I didn't know that, thank you.
Neither, I mean, they let us know, but
Just-
Stephen Brown at Grace Cottage let us know, but they have requested it for years when they have not, prior to this. Vermont, New Hampshire, hospice. Yeah. Right after it was brought to my attention from Stephen Brown, they let us know.
So that's 27.
Yeah, visiting nurses.
So that'll be fixed.
Okay, I mean, that, you can amend that amount from the floor.
The other thing is, that when we were talking with the committee before they started their deliberation to create this, we asked them to find out how many Townshend people were benefited from these requests, you know, the organizations that do this request, and I only see one on page 26. It's noted that 23 Townshend residents benefited from this, and the rest were not discussed. The other thing that I have some information on is the third down, the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. They came to our select board meeting. We asked some questions. The man said he was not the one who would answer it, and no matter how many times we've tried to go back and get answers, we haven't. And it's quite a bit larger than the other requests, so that's just something I wanted to bring up. So, yes.
Would you say that again, please? I'm trying to write it down.
The third one on page 26.
And the problem is?
The problem is he came to a meeting, he discussed what he did for our town. We had questions because we weren't satisfied with what he said. And he said somebody, one of his coworkers would get back to us, and no matter how many times we've called, we haven't gotten a response. And as I said, that's, you know, more than double a lot of or triple some of the requests. So to have that, and in the future, I'd really love to see it labeled, this helped 27 Townshend families, this helped 4 Townshend families. You know, that would be important information. Yes.
So Ally, at town meeting, should we actually address that?
You don't have to, you can amend this and you can delete some, you can look at one and say, this is my favorite one, I say we double their, you can do whatever you want, you're the boss, you're the taxpayers.
And there is a screening committee to hopefully answer some questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was not,
Okay.
I was not aware that we were supposed to get that number and put it here.
Okay.
I will go back through our paperwork because I believe we have it for.
Oh, that would be nice to have for town meeting.
It's in some of the requests.
Yeah, it's in the request, but I didn't know it needed to be in here. And we were trying to keep it to 2 pages.
Yeah, and I spoke to Kathy about that, and obviously it got lost in translation.
It doesn't have to be in here, but it's, I think, very beneficial for people to know.
Yes, go back here and then we'll go there.
So if they were no longer servicing the town, and it's been a couple of years, yep, were we still giving them the 27?
We have, this is the first year that they let us know that they have. I think we should get reimbursed, but that's not,
I mean.
I doubt that's gonna happen, but. I will say that they did, after it was brought to my attention from Grace Cottage, that they did reach out to me, ironically the same day. But they also submit this request and have, in the previous years, known that they don't serve us, including this year, because we don't, these are all requests that are, they request each year from the town.
So was the money given to, I'm sorry.
Last year, yes.
Okay.
And that's a treasurer question, if we can get a reimbursement or at least ask for one.
This request doesn't come from visiting nurses. It comes from something else. It's a different letterhead entirely. So maybe they don't know either.
Okay.
If they're requesting for another organization, they should. I mean, I'm sorry.
Should.
they should be aware of that if they're requesting money.
Yeah, that's the operative word there, should.
Sure.
I find I don't approve of giving money to the Commons. That's a newspaper. They publish political opinions, which we may or may not agree with, and it's not a social service. So I'm gonna put forth an amendment to eliminate that. I don't think we should be giving money to the Commons newspaper.
May I just say, if for no other reason, they have free obituaries.
Yes.
And that's super important. And that was one of the reasons, I mean, we have a free press, you don't have to read it, but they do provide information. We don't have very many newspapers. We're lucky to have the Reformer such as it is, and the Commons, and again, the free obituaries is huge. Because, you know.
And it's free.
It's free, right.
Amendments are always welcome. Looks like it's gonna be a long article.
I'm gonna bring my laptop and I have it in Excel so that when we change the dollar amounts, I can give you the number right away.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'll bring a calculator too.
Yeah, well, two
Minus,
pages and-
minus.
Yeah.
Okay, any other social screening services discussion? Okay, Article C 5717. See, no Roman numerals. Oh boy, there might be a little bit of discussion on this one. To institute an annual charge of $100 for a hang tag and $4 per bag. Now remember, this discussion has to happen at town meeting. This is not town meeting. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm wondering why we're even having to pay for bags. Why are we, those bags don't hold anything. They rip so easily. They're garbage bags. Why can't we change to something that's a little better, like tags or stickers that people can put on their own bags, instead of all of us putting bags in bags in bags, so that there's not a huge mess when those purple bags tear apart and they're just adding more garbage to the environment? Why can't we switch
We
to
have a
something
whole
else?
drawer down there of tokens that we used to sell. Way back when we first started this, a little token with a drawing of a garbage bag on it, and you bought a token for $1 and it let you throw your own garbage bag in. And somewhere, when I wasn't here, it got changed to bags, and that's the system we have now.
I think it needs to be reinstated.
Well, as I said, you folks run the town, we're just your
But
representatives.
that's not what this is about.
What is the implementation of this gonna be like? Do I have to, where I buy my bags, I pay my $100 ticket? Like-
You're gonna pay, well, if this passes, you would pay the town clerk $100.
So I have to go to the town clerk to pay my $100?
Where you get your hang tag anyway. And then when you go to the dump, you go in and show your hang tag and dump your garbage
Well, I
and your.
already have a hang tag.
Well, we'll put a sticker on it that you've paid for the year.
This is why everybody used to use the outhouse. That's why
Can
my outhouse is
can I
mine.
say something before I give you the floor? We had, and we opened it up to everybody, please, taxpayers, come join our committee. We had a trash committee, and we met, how many times did we meet, Nick?
At least 3 or 4.
At least,
For
I
like a
think a
month and
half a
half, 2
dozen.
months.
And we had a really good, productive, would you like to talk to this?
I would, unless Charlotte has a question right away.
I can wait, go ahead.
Yes, so in the trash committee, we went through and really tried to dig into what are the costs of maintaining trash service here at town. And it is expensive, and it is a runaway cost because there's also a single corporation that will deal with municipal municipal trash collection and disposal. And we are kind of in a unique situation with this corporation. So we don't really have a lot of leverage. We don't have a lot of negotiation that we can do there. And so we were trying to see if we keep the current system, what do we need to do to make that sustainable? We explored the idea of charging for hang tags, increasing the charge for bags, and that's what's here. The committee recommended actually to do away with municipal trash collection with the transfer station, and instead to have residents figure it out on their own. There are plenty of smaller companies that will do residential collection, and when there's already a municipal collection, they're kind of less likely to do that. So if we didn't have trash collection, we would be able to move to that route. Newfane has done that, I believe, like 20 or so years ago, and they've been operating just fine. There was quite a lot of pushback at first, but they've gotten through the growing pains of it. And so that's what the trash committee recommended. We spend about $100,000 a year, and so that would save us around that $100,000. Now, of course, that would switch to like a private expense that you're paying, but then we're not paying for this transfer station where we have a compactor that is many years out of date and is very expensive to maintain, and we have had breakdowns year after year. We've had breakdowns this year. The other alternative we looked into was switching to a roll-off truck system where we could take our own, so we're not paying for hauling fees. We could take our trash ourselves and take it to the company to dispose of. But then that's of course getting another piece of equipment, maintaining that piece of equipment, and so really the trash committee recommended against keeping the transfer station and switching to private residential trash collection. As a select board, when we discussed it as a group, we felt that there would be quite a bit of pushback, public resistance to that idea, at least right away. And so that's why we ended up with, if we keep our current system, here are some changes that we're proposing that can be amended on the floor, that the amounts can be amended as, anyone pleases, right? But here are some changes to the current system to at least make it a little bit more sustainable. So that is the trash committee.
Okay, so the thing that I've heard from multiple people is that trash truck is a rolling death trap. If they're taking their lives in their hands when they're driving the garbage somewhere else. Not only that, when it was purchased and brought here, those of us who live nearby suddenly developed this infestation of huge rats that came from New York with the truck. So I don't know if everyone else is aware of that, but we've had this nice invasion of huge rats, in addition to letting the people who take care of our trash drive this rolling death trap. So maybe that's something that needs to be put out there so everyone is aware of those two things, because those affect a lot of other things.
What is the annual cost of
It's right in the
trash
town report.
service? Is that in here somewhere?
Yeah, it's just, I think it's right over $100,000.
In the grand scheme of things, $100,000 doesn't seem like all that much money.
13, so page 13 into 14, that will have our transfer station costs, and yes, it was about 90,000.
Right.
And then the revenue would be, in the revenue page,
30,000.
Yeah.
Where is it?
What are you asking, Eugene?
You got two questions going on?
Well, the question I want to ask ultimately is, doesn't seem like all that much money not to just add into the regular expenses of the town.
It already is
It is.
added into the regular.
No, because you're charging $3 for a bag, and now you want to have an additional $100 and $4 a
If this
bag.
article could pass or fail. If it fails, the money that's listed in the line items is what the town's gonna operate on for the year. Do you understand that?
So
No.
the amount that we're getting in trash bag sales, you can find that in the revenue page on page 10,
Okay, how much is it?
about 30,000.
Okay, and the
So-
total cost
Is about 90.
is about 90,000.
Yes. So that difference of 60,000 is what ends up being raised in our general fund and taxation.
Okay, so why
So
not
that's why we're
raise,
looking at this
why not
number.
raise another 30,000 from the general fund?
That's what I think.
So that
That's what the
those,
proposal is. So the hang tag and increasing on the trash bag sales is essentially a way to put that cost, instead of spreading it out equally amongst all the town taxpayers who may not actually be using the transfer station, is to put that cost on the folks who are using it. It's just, different ideas for how to approach it.
There are many people that have a dumpster, there's many people that take their trash to Brattleboro, and they're not paying for these, and that's why the garbage bag system seemed equitable. But the costs are going exponentially higher. And it was our thought that if we could raise that 30,000 through increased bag sales and hang tags, it would charge the people who use the facility the money more appropriately than just raising the line item. I have a question or comment here and then in the back.
Is that 30,000?
Oh wait, I have the first, was she was here for a while. Go ahead.
I've often wondered why we don't just have big dumpsters for trash like we have for recycling. No more truck, where whoever brings those dumpsters in comes and takes them away and brings us a new clean one. Wouldn't it cut out a lot of expenses?
That's what we
So-
did in the trash committee.
No, the way that it works is that truck is a compactor. So it's making us be able to fit more and haul away fewer times. We're getting charged every single time we need to haul away trash, and then per ton, how much we're actually tipping into the landfill. So if we had just a container, there's a lot of just air in every bag, and there's a lot that's just taking up space, and so that container's gonna fill up a lot faster than if we had a compactor situation. So when we don't have the compactor, we are hauling away many more times than what we would be regularly, and so we're paying even more per bag.
The trash committee did research a compactor dumpster to be able to address that issue. You'd have to purchase the compactor dumpster, maintain the dumpster,
And
then
Or
buy a
build a shelter.
used roll-off truck. So
And
the
and
committee
build
felt-
a facility so it didn't fill up with water and
the
ice.
the committee felt that that initial outlay of cost was not something they wanted to recommend.
But didn't the Wyndham solid waste guy that was there, we had that discussion a couple weeks ago, and it was raised that Townsend having that compactor that they drive themselves, it saves a little bit of money with the hauling
It's the
fees,
cheapest
right?
method.
And we have also gotten into an agreement with Wyndham County Solid Waste that people that are in our county, we're gonna hold hands sort of to work with Casella, who is our supplier of the trucking, and that maybe if there's a larger group negotiating, we can get better fees. So
Or
that's
we can get other companies to come in
Right.
and
say,
well-
oh, it's not just Little Wardsboro, it's all of you, yay.
it's not a guarantee, but it is something to at least try to stand up to the big corporation that is pretty much controlling trash for this entire region.
And it's really evident in their amounts that they charge from town to town. Their tipping fees, their hauling fees, all of that varies from the different towns, and in the meeting that at least I sat in, there was no rhyme or reason for it, except that they're the only game in town and they charge people whatever they want.
Right.
So,
Helen?
Yeah, just so the 30,000 in anticipated revenue, is that at the 350 per bag?
Yes.
Or is that the 4?
Yes.
That's at the three.
None of the $100 and the $5 are not reflected in anything anywhere other than an article. Yes,
Trina,
Trina.
but in all fairness, I'm just bringing this up for preemptive reasons. In all fairness, in the audit, it said that one of the major issues was a lack of inventory maintenance.
May
So-
I address that before you go on? That's been fixed. We have an ironclad system now.
But since,
Yes,
so this 30,000 is an accurate number?
I think we were doing a very good job before, but now we have an ironclad system
Okay.
between Connie and Alanka, and they kind of
My
match figures.
understanding is that the 30,000 was an actual number. It wasn't, we budget for what has come in the previous year. So it is an actual number. The reconciliation and of the inventory, I think, is more to make sure that we're not losing trash bags, which I don't think we are, but I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was, I mean, I know it's in here, but I don't think it was a huge, like, oh, we don't know where all these garbage bags. I don't think there was any of, like, oh, 5 boxes were missing.
No, he
I think
just
it
thought
was-
it should be a little tighter, and we
Yeah.
have tightened it up, and actually, when he saw what we were doing, he said we were doing a good job. So,
So one thing I'll add to Helen's question about whether the revenue is reflected in the budget or not. So with this proposal, what we had looked at as the budget committee, so it's not gonna be in the town report, but with the increase of the sale of the bags and the hang tags, and this is actually not even the final proposal. But we're looking at least about 63,000 in revenue. I mean, those are estimates, right? We don't know exactly how many households are going to come in and use the hang tags. We don't know exactly how many people are how many bags are going to sell. But based on our current numbers, as best as we can think about it, we're looking from 30,000 revenue to now increasing that to 63,000 with this proposal.
Now I can see how it could be difficult to know how many hang tags are going out, because we have two.
Mm-hmm.
If they're gonna charge $100 for a hang tag, we're only
You'll
gonna
be
have
sharing.
one. So.
Yeah, there'll be new hang tags, you're not gonna get to.
Oh, we can't use the old ones? No?
Come on, oh my God.
Okay, any other discussion on the hang tags and the increased bag fee? Yes.
My only question is, if this passes, all the people who can't afford $100 a year and the increase in bags and can't take their garbage somewhere else, are there any back burner plans for how the town's gonna take care of cleaning up all the garbage that gets thrown in the woods and on the side of the road?
Can I address that? I mean, I've lived in town for 45 years and there's been garbage discussions all along. When we did the tokens 30 years ago, people said, oh, the side roads are gonna fill up with garbage. They don't. They really don't. Jeremy finds a couch once in a while somewhere, but it really doesn't fill up with garbage.
And then there's green up day coming right up.
Yeah.
I think you need a second green up day is what I'm thinking.
Or a lot that more in social services, no.
Maybe having like a backup plan for like a second day of green up of Townsend, because it's better to have it and not need it than all of a sudden need it and not have it.
We'll start another committee. So, and ask taxpayers to be on the committees.
Any other discussion on hang tags, bag fees? They're still gonna be purple?
Don't ask me, let's see if the article
We're just
passes
changing how
first.
much.
Just checking how much? They turned green.
They have to be purple because we have a cellar full of them.
Who has a cellar full of those bags?
We do.
Oh, you have a
They're
cellar?
all-
Good. I thought they were all accounted for.
They are all accounted for.
They're all locked up in Fort Knox.
Becky, before we say goodnight, do you want to go over the delinquent tax page and talk a
Wait,
little?
oh,
What would you
okay.
like me to go
Do
over?
we have anything else we wanna talk about?
Well, I just am asking.
Any other, does anybody have any non-binding business they know might occur? Yes? Not to discuss here, but then you know it's coming up. Go ahead.
2026 is the 250th anniversary of the United States, and does Townsend want to do anything special? I went to the committee meeting at Brattleboro and they said ask Townsend. So, you know, just as we're cleaning up for the
Something to be brought up. I
Bring
agree.
it up, hold it to me and talk to me.
Okie dokie.
Okay, yep, bring that up.
And where is delinquent tax on here? One thing that, when we were talking to the people that help us with, no, not the auditors, NIMRIC, that with they said that we have an inordinate amount of taxes due and a low amount of taxes received. And I said, well, I think it's been pretty much the same across the years. And they said you should have more tax sales. And
I have an answer.
my answer to them was that tax sales cost an awful lot of money. And if somebody owes $3,000 and they're not paying, they're not making any, it might cost us $6,000 to have a tax sale.
No, because any costs of a tax sale are redeemed at the tax sale by the person that purchased
What
it.
about lawyer fees?
Those are included in the minimum bid at a tax sale.
How come we have a $6,300?
That's an error. I spoke with Elaine about that today.
Oh.
That was a reimbursement that came in March of the prior year, and the bill went out after. So that's a big discrepancy with my report, is the timing of it all, because I mean, I don't know how much of a report you want me to give here.
Well,
but
I think it would be nice if the people knew, like, if somebody's trying to pay their taxes, we don't act on it.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. So,
Okay, so tell us how it works.
and there, so like right now, it's different from the book, but there's around 88,000 that's delinquent. 22,500 of that are 3 properties that I've been instructed by prior select board staff to hold off on because there's a lot of upfront legal fees that you would eventually get those back. That conversation can come after I talk to the new select board, whoever that may be. 55,600 of that has been sent to the attorney, but probably 40 of that I cannot act upon until July because as of last year, there's new statutes stating that I can't put a property up for tax sale unless it's been 12 months delinquent.
And define delinquent to us.
As of July 1st, well, I get the warrant in May, but as of July 1st, that's the way our June 30th to July 1st. So they have to be delinquent a total of 12 months before I can put them up to tax sale. That's new.
Is
as
that
of
owing money
2024.
without payment or if they've been paying all along?
No, that's just the term delinquent.
Meaning owing something?
No, yes, but they have to be on the warrant that I receive from so tax year 23-24, which is what is currently delinquent. I can't put any of those properties up for tax sale if it's only 1 year.
Okay.
I have to wait until July. If you owe more than that 1 year, so my list has been lessened from like 17 to 4 because only 4 of them have more than 12 months delinquent.
So they're actionable.
So I can't do anything according to the new law. That's not the way I used to. I have a policy of I work with people for 12 months. And I wanted to put 17 up, but I can't do that because I have to follow this new law. I can go into a lot more detail if you'd like me to.
Does anybody have questions about delinquent taxes?
When you say more than 12 months, does that mean they have not paid anything in the previous 12 months?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Some correct, some not correct.
So you're gonna be there for other non-binding business to answer questions on delinquent taxes? Because there is no
I will be
specific.
there.
Okay.
If it comes up.
If it comes up, right.
I'm
Somebody
gonna
asks.
hope it doesn't.
Right, somebody asks questions about delinquent taxes. Okay. Anything else you're gonna close the meeting, but does anything else come before pre-town meeting as moderator that you wanted to discuss?
There's more articles.
There's more articles? Okay. Article 18, to see if the town will authorize the select board to acquire land and gift and purchase. That is a boilerplate, been on every single one. To see if the town will vote to set the first Tuesday in March 2026 for the annual town meeting. Yes.
What does municipal forest mean?
But go ahead, when that does happen.
Municipal forest would be like, well, no, Townsend doesn't have any specific. Does Townsend have a forest? I don't think so either. But if there's property to come up, they can decide to purchase it.
Okay, I wanted to point out, since we're working on the town plan, that we very much are aware that Townsend is primarily forest, which is fortunate. You know, there's not solar fields, there's not windmill fields and whatever, and there's no condos going up. And if it's a matter of spending money or not spending money, I can attest to the fact that Townsend doesn't need to acquire land by purchase for municipal forest because we're pretty much all forest already. That's just some information I'm disseminating out there.
Okay, bring it up at town meeting, we could vote that down. That'd be fine. Okay.
You don't want a gift of forest? Thank you.
There's another thing going on, like the Bull Creek, whatever's going on, they want landowners to give land to that.
Oh, yeah, they do.
You know, if it was like GMHA and Woodstock, where you're just letting your land be used by horsemen on riding trails, that's one thing. Why the heck would anybody want to give their land away?
You don't have to.
Yeah.
No one's forced.
That's their choice.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on Article 13, 18? 18 then. About acquiring the land? No? 19? I can do Roman numerals, I don't know why they're in Roman numerals.
But not the
19.
CV ones,
I mean, the
right?
Super Bowl is in Roman numerals, it makes it so difficult. To
Makes
see,
you learn it
to
though.
see,
It's good-
yeah, I guess.
Good knowledge.
I guess.
Thinking, you know, to keep your brain active.
There's a reason why nobody speaks Latin anymore.
I think the Pope.
Well, yeah, the Pope, right. To see if the town will set the first Tuesday of March 2026 for the date of town's next meeting. Any questions? And then any other non-binding business, we were already talking about that. Anybody know of anything to come up? Okay, so that's the warning. Thank you for coming, this aspect of it. It gives us a good idea of what people are thinking. Al, you got anything else?
No, oh, thank you. No, any other questions?
Anything else?
Let's adjourn. It is 8 o'clock. Hey, we did it in exactly 2 hours, folks.
Okay, everybody better be there at town meeting and bring all these questions up. Because
Nick,
it really is bothersome when we have a pre-town meeting and there's lots of discussion, and then we get to town meeting and nobody brings anything up.
in one part it's one thing and another.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Which part, which way?